a year, and since the last election, to see everybody's smiling face all in one place. It's actually pretty incredible. If you think about the last couple of weeks, how quickly things changed. It's very nice. It's very odd though to walk into a store where you're used to having to have a mask and walk in and walk around and just smell the smells again. Grocery stores, Walmart, wherever, and not have the mask on. It feels kind of odd not having it, but at the same time, it feels pretty good. So. Roll call, please. I'm sorry. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. We have 20 present, 1 absent, 1 excused. Presentation of the agenda. We have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Correspondence. In the correspondence, the unassigned fund balance. Any other correspondence to add? Public comment. Ken?
Okay, for a public comment, we have some individuals that are in the peninsula room. We'll let those individuals go first. Then also those that are online, if you'd like to speak, if you're on the computer, you can raise your hand on the computer system itself, and I can recognize you and then give you the floor. Likewise, if you're on the phone, you can actually hit *9, and I will also see you and then be able to give you the floor for comments. Just as a reminder, we try to limit our comments to 3 minutes, so I'll be timing the comments today. So again, I'll start first with the peninsula room. And Barb, if you have it unmuted, you can start with that room. You have the floor.
Okay, she's ready. Yes, good morning. My name is Dot Berner. I live in Sturgeon Bay at 625 East Walnut Drive. And today I'd like to address the resolution 2021-31, Door County's vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion. With all due respect, this resolution was really never about public health. It's a backdoor implementation of the governor's executive orders, number 17 and 59. These orders created his Equity Council and Advisory Council on Equity and Inclusion, which mandate DEI training for all government employees to intentionally dismantle individual and systemic racism. But Dr. LeVar Charleston, UW-Madison diversity expert and member of the Governor's Advisory Council, clarified their mission, quote, "Everything from white Western culture needs to be purged from public education. Everything from white Western culture needs to be purged from public education." Diversity, equity, and inclusion are just soft social justice sounding terms that in reality promote anti-white discrimination and hate. This training presents the lies of critical race theory, systemic racism, implicit bias, white supremacy, unearned white privilege, victimization and oppression as fact and history, all under the twisted name of anti-racism. This woke indoctrination destroys our communities. It denies our individuality, our sovereign right to our own thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and personal choices. It crushes dissent and poisons everything it touches. These local initiatives and resolutions are attempts to force this dangerous ideology beyond government bodies and into our communities, businesses, neighborhoods, and schools. This agenda is teaching our children to hate themselves, each other, their parents, and our country, with its founding ideal of personal liberty. We want our children to have an uplifting, hope-filled education that builds understanding, compassion, and confidence without fears of accusations that they are born racists, not this hate. We, the people who hired you, will not sit by and allow this hate-filled ideology to take hold in our community. We're decent, hardworking citizens. We're welcoming and gracious to all the visitors who come to enjoy our beautiful peninsula. We have hopes, dreams, and aspirations, but we do not want to be divided into identity groups, then monitored, studied, and evaluated.
30 seconds. Okay.
Final statement. We want a positive vision for our future from the people we have hired to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it then, everybody. That's all we have in here, Ken.
Okay, then I will, Barb, if you can mute it, thank you. Christine Reed, you have the floor. You're muted, you have to unmute yourself.
Christine Reed, 597 Sleepy Hollow Drive. On April 21st, I wrote correspondence to the board regarding rules of order. I thought that I followed all of those rules sufficiently and specifically asked that that correspondence be included as correspondence to the board in the agenda. However, when the meeting minutes came out, it was not included. So on May 22nd, I wrote again and said, please include it or explain why it is not considered correspondence to the board. It had nothing to do with pending litigation. It was specifically about correspondence to the board. I have written over the past 3 years several times to the board and never had any of my correspondence included as correspondence to the board. And I would like to know why. Next question, and this one is probably going to get kicked over to Corporation Council because it is about the drawdown on the Mill Pond. We are requesting to know who the county's experts that Ken Fisher has referred to several times, starting with the town hall back in December of 2018. He has said repeatedly, and a real good example of that would be if you listen to the recorded board meeting from July 23rd, 2019, at 13 minutes, he talks about the county's experts that advised that this was a good idea. We know that it's not Mary Gansberg from the DNR because I spoke to this board and it's recorded in one of your board meetings. Greg Colthurst related that Mary Gansberg advised that there will not be much of an increase in depth unless you remove the sediment and stop the inputs. Kerry Webb with the DNR made strong recommendations not to transport sediment. Rob Elliott warned not to leave the valve open. So there are some experts who had advice that this is not the best solution. But Ken has said it repeatedly that it is the best solution. So this is probably going to go to Corporation Council, but we would certainly appreciate getting an answer. And the correspondence to the board shouldn't require attorneys getting involved. I mean, I talked to Facilities and Parks and asked, what are the wood stakes at the county park for? I couldn't get an answer. It took our attorney going to Corporation Council and asking, what are those wood stakes for? And it turns out that they are where they're going to place a park bench.
Thank you, Christine. Your time is up. Okay, Tom, you have the floor. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Ken. This is Tom Clay. I'm the Executive Director at Door County Land Trust, and I'm just joining you to kind of state our support and hopefully your support for Resolution 2021-44, which is the 10-year reauthorization of the Knowles-Nelson Stewardship Program. First of all, thanks to the Legislative Committee for voting unanimously to bring this before you this morning. Thanks to them, and thanks to all of you for what you do. Just a couple of comments. Our environment in the state of Wisconsin and especially in Door County, it's what makes us special. And your support of this program recognizes that. From tourism to climate change, reauthorizing the Knowles-Nelson program at the state level, it's the right thing to do. I guess outdoor recreation use, I'm sure from the county staff, you've heard that from the park staff and from the land trust. It's incredible out there. It's skyrocketing the number of folks that we have on our lands, which is a good thing, and also a little bit scary too. Which is why supporting this program is so important, to keep that balance between man and nature. And again, I hope you favorably consider the 10-year reauthorization of the program and send that message to our legislators in Madison. And again, thank you all. Thanks for what you do.
Okay, thank you. Donna, you had your hand raised. You have the floor. You have to unmute yourself. Donna, would you like to speak? Donna Hake, would you like to speak for the last time? Okay, Donna, I'm taking you off that's not. Last one is by phone with the last digits of 13. You have the floor. You have to, I think you have yourself muted, but you have the floor.
Good, excuse me. Good morning, Donald Fricks, 8305 Quarter Line Road, Fish Creek. I'd like to point out a typographical error in the minutes on page 3 of 86, Rule of Order 8A. The second sentence, it says, if pertains to an item on the agenda. I think it should read, if it pertains. So that's a minor thing I hope somebody noticed. My comment, aside from pointing out what I thought was just a simple typo, is that I think that the county board is in violation or simply ignoring Rules of Order number 39 from the last year's version, because I don't see a updated version of the rules that were passed at the last meeting last month. The decision to not close the sluice gate at the Forestville Mill Pond is a decision that doesn't benefit the public interest, and it doesn't actively promote public confidence in county government. And I will refer back to today's agenda, and let's see if I can find it here. The administrative report said something to the effect, I don't have it open in front of me, that there was no status change in the Mill Pond drawdown. The initial goal has absolutely failed to have even started to draw down the sediment, and that there is no status change ignores the fact that hundreds of thousands, let's say thousands of tons of contaminated sediment have been flushed downstream of the dam. Now that seems to be a significant status change, and I think it is a misrepresentative deliberately being made to the public about what's happening at the mill pond. So lastly, I'll finish up with, I sent a correspondence to the board dated May 4th. I followed all the rules, and I know I can't debate anybody about the rules to get that correspondence included in today's agenda packet, which it was not. It was the piece entitled Socialist Supervisor Fisher. And I followed all the rules, and I don't have any chance to debate that, so I obviously have to go by whatever decision or excuses the county makes here. So I'm, lodging an informal complaint about that, being purposely denied publication of my correspondence to the board. So with that, I'll say thank you for listening, and have a good day.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And for a final time, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor's response, is that, Susan, is that what you want to respond to?
No, I actually want to talk during public comment.
Okay, sorry.
I just want to tell you of a resource. On Saturday morning, the League of Women Voters of Door County had their annual meeting, and the speaker that we had was Megan Wolf, who's the administrator for the Wisconsin Elections Commission. She did an absolutely wonderful job, and her topic was how Wisconsin secures their elections. So she explained from the state to the county to the municipalities all of the things in place to protect our elections. Was really very impressive. I thought I knew a lot about election security, but I learned a whole lot more. And the video of her presentation is accessible through the Door County League of Women Voters Facebook page or website. It's on both. It's about an hour, a little bit less, I think. She answered a few questions at the end, but mostly it was her presentation, and she really did an excellent job. So you might be interested.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any supervisor response?
Guys, I have one. Just one thing for the clarification rules, because I know some people have asked. Again, when someone sends an email to the full county board, you already are receiving it and you have it in your possession. So it doesn't automatically mean it's going to be included in the county board packet. Again, it's up to the county board chair to review those items. And again, the intent of the comments should be comments. It's not a publication of someone's opinions and other forth. So again, just want to clarify that if it goes to the full county board, you already have it in your possession, you had a chance to read it. The intent of the public comment or correspondence is not to provide a forum for publications on stuff that's not pertinent to our county board or our action. So just wanted to clarify that so everyone's on the same page of what we're doing with those correspondences as they come in. We bring those in. If they say that, we make a pile of those. David will review those as far as the agendas, and we'll put them on as the county board chair sees fit for those items.
Approval of the minutes of April 20, 2021, regular meeting. A motion and a second. Any changes, additions, deletions? Since it were pointed out that we need a word change or it was incorrectly worded by a member of the public, I would suggest that we amend the minutes to reflect the change.
Scrivener's error.
The Scrivener's error.
Scrivener's
Scrivener's
as
error.
Grant would say.
Anybody else? If not, we will take a voice vote on the amended minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. County Administrator.
Sure, so I won't, I know Sue has a little bit of report for the COVID, but let me just cover some of the stuff on the operational. We did present it at admin, and you're aware already because you're not wearing masks that we dropped the masking mandate for our facilities on Monday. And then on following after the holiday on the Tuesday, I guess we're back to what we consider regular operations and whatever that means. There definitely are some exceptions, again, based off the CDC guidelines. So you're going to see some of those exceptions, for example, in the jail. The ADRC still gets more detailed advice from the state and their Department of Public Health and Human Services that way in terms of what's the best practices for the ADRC. So we're still relying on, I guess, what we consider the experts' opinions on that. Again, I think one of the things that we discussed at admin is that throughout this entire process, we kind of use the CDC as our guidance to, I guess, get us into this or navigate through the process. And I guess we're trying to follow the same guidance to, I guess, ramp or get off the ramp, as we'd say, in terms of dropping or changing the way we do our operations. So again, if something changes from the CDC or if something changes midsummer or late in the fall and we get that advice, we'll consider that same consideration. We'll try to follow that expert advice in terms of moving forward and try not to be reactionary. I know there's some different opinions one way or another, but again, we're trying to follow what we consider the best advice through the CDC. So that's what we're doing in terms of our operations in general. Again, within the packet itself, just in terms of the memo, I do have all the capital projects in there with the updates. I guess the only thing I would point out is obviously there is one resolution in terms of the study with HGA for our campus project, and that would obviously be starting this month should you approve that resolution today. But with that, I will then move now to Sue, and I know she has a little bit of a PowerPoint, so I'll bring that up on the screen.
Good morning, Sue.
It's nice to be in person.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, Sue. I have to share the screen here. I lost my ability to do so. 1 second.
Yeah, that's okay. So actually, that's the end of the.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I just have like 5 slides this morning. Picture is worth 1,000 words.
Okay.
Okay, so COVID disease activity level all across the state, cases have declined and leveled off. Most of the state remains at high disease activity level by the state parameters, but let's remember that at one point we were at critically high, then very high, so now we're down to high. And you can see that some of our neighbors by the lighter color are in the medium category. So hopefully we're headed that direction also. We are averaging 0, 1, 2 cases a day, and we continue to do full contact tracing. The testing positivity rate, which is the percent positive on your screen there, is low across the state. It's less than 3% for us and the state as a whole, so that is very good. Next slide, thank you. This is daily confirmed cases, and across the bottom is a timeline. Just wanted to show you kind of where we are in this pandemic. So over on the far left, that would be January of 2020, and then it progresses. You can see in November was pretty much the peak. This is just for Door County, but the state as a whole, there's a timeline similar that has a similar shape rather. So you can see in May there that we've leveled off sort of nicely. Hopefully it's going to stay down there. Active cases are currently 45 in the county. To date, the deaths we've had in the pandemic, number 23, and the total ever hospitalized is 93. Next slide, please. So as I said, I think last month, the current burden of disease is in the younger age groups. And what I want you to notice, and I realize this is a little bit hard to see with the colors, the color blue, light blue there is the under 18 age group, and then the dark red is the 25 to 34. And you can see how, and again, this is a timeline of the pandemic with that peak in November and then coming down to recent. And in last few weeks, you can see that the light blue has gone to the top. In other words, across the state, the most prevalent age group is those 18 and under. And then the next most prevalent is 25 to 34. So in the last month in Door County, 22% of the cases were aged 0 to 19, and across the state, 27% were in that age group. We're of course still concerned about variants. They remain of concern because they've shown evidence of spreading more easily and quickly, and B.1.1.7 remains the most common variant in the state and the Midwest. To date, no tests have been reported in Wisconsin showing the India variant. And indications to date are that the vaccine is providing protection against disease with the variants, but of course, this continues to be studied. And vaccines, we continue to do well. This is a slide showing percentage of Wisconsin residents who've received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. So the darker the county, the higher the percentage. And Door County is currently #1 in the state for this, for the percentage of population having received first doses. It's really kind of nice to have something going right, and it's great for our community. Across the state, 46% of the population has gotten the first dose, and for us in Door County, 62%. For everyone who has gotten vaccinated, it protects you, your family, friends, our entire community. The providers who administer vaccine in Door County are, along with us, Door County Medical Center. Bellin Clinic has begun giving vaccine Monday through Friday by appointment or walk-ins, and then some of the pharmacies. I believe they're CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. We live in a great collaborative community, and that has really helped us with the success across vaccines. Across the state, over 40% of the population has completed the vaccine series, and in Door County, 57%. So we're doing well on that too. Vaccine is in strong supply, has become much more easily accessible, and because of declining numbers, requests for vaccine, we've shifted from the drive-through clinics to in-building. All the information about our clinics are on the COVID-19 webpage on the county website, but briefly, we have clinics Wednesday afternoon, 3:30 to 6 at the ADRC, and I want to thank our friends at the ADRC for allowing us to literally take over their building one afternoon a week. Jake and his staff at the ADRC also continue to help us with outreach to get to those folks who have barriers to getting to our clinics, and they are helping connect them with DC Connect, our transportation partners, or they let us know who needs actual home visits. On a weekly basis, we're doing home visits and administering COVID vaccine. We are also going to the Sister Bay Fire Department to do vaccines every 3 weeks on Thursday afternoons from 3:30 to 6. And of course, huge thanks to Chris Hecht for working with us all these months, along with so many volunteers that just are very loyal. They keep coming back week after week, really helpful and fun to work with too. Since we have a team of LTE nurse vaccinators, we no longer need Aaron LeClaire and the EMS crew to help with our vaccines. Huge thank you to them for putting up with us taking over their ambulance garage for months. Likewise, Dan Kane is no longer working with us with the vaccine effort on a regular basis, but we sure appreciate all his hard work. And this last slide shows percentage of the Door County residents who've received at least one dose. And what's of note is the stair step on the bottom, the different age groups. And you can see that the younger the age group, the more work we have to do. So we've still got a ways to go to get everyone vaccinated. Our goal is 80% of the eligible population, and we continue to adjust things. We've adjusted our clinic hours, and as of this week, we'll begin welcoming walk-ins, those without appointments, to our vaccine clinics. And we're able to do that because a couple things have changed. Number one being how long we can store the Pfizer vaccine in the fridge. It used to be 5 days, and now we can keep it a month. And then with the strong supply of vaccine, the state has shifted its priorities to never pass up an opportunity to provide a dose of vaccine. And there's less emphasis on concern about if we open a vial and have to waste some doses. So it all makes it easier. And we do encourage appointments. Walk-ins are subject to vaccine availability. Everyone's well aware of the recent updated CDC guidelines for those who are fully vaccinated. And Vaccinations are key now, and we're to the point where those not vaccinated may be having some hesitancy. At Public Health, we strive to listen to the concerns, provide unbiased scientific data, and address those concerns. And we continue with our messaging efforts in different formats, but we also know that one-on-one conversations are really impactful and important. So if you've chosen to be vaccinated, please share with others your reasons for getting vaccinated to help our whole community. And that's all I had this morning.
Thank you. Questions for Sue? Megan?
No question, just a comment to commend our public health team for us to be at this point with Door County really leading the state in vaccination is awesome, and just a great job to that entire team and everyone who has been supportive to them throughout this, and it sounds like they are continuing to be, so it's great.
Thank you. Well said. Anybody else? All right.
Okay, then this, the last part of my report is on page 12 and 13 of your packet. Again, this was a memo that I prepared for the administrative committee. Again, what it does is it addresses our discussion as relation to 2021-31. There was a question based off the new rules in terms of, does the amendment create unplanned budget expenses, or does it create a significant impact of allocation of resources? So what I did is I actually put together a summary of, I guess, what I consider the approach that we're going to try to take. And if we would take this approach, I guess I don't foresee an issue either as far as unbudgeted expenses or a huge consumption of time that cannot be handled. And really, in short, I outlined two methods. One is our external approach. And really, in this one, I tried to use an analogy for the administrative committee that is left in the memo. But again, in this case, I'm working with other area leaders to have a discussion, it seems, of what we can put together to foster that discussion. But once that process starts, we're kind of the passenger on the bus. We're not the bus driver, is my analogy on that. So we're trying to see if we can get that conversation going among the community and see if we can put together some plans of action with those community leaders to see how that can move forward. I did have one initial meeting with some, and we're actually, I guess, the advice from that was to try to get more of our community leaders involved, and we're trying to get a meeting scheduled yet for the first part of June to have that discussion. So I'll be working on that aspect. So that would be our external approach. The internal approach, we actually broke it down. I put together a team of department heads to have a discussion in terms of how we can look at DEI in general. And really, from our standpoint, when we're looking at it, we're looking at everything that we have within our departments, from policies to procedures to our interactions with our clients, website, web pages, so forth. So again, we actually outlined a 5-phase approach. In each one of those phases, I guess I won't read it to you. We got a chance to review it. But it gives you, our general approach in each one of those phases and a general time frame. The one thing I would stress is that while it seems that it's extended, it's actually, if we take a look at it, there is quite a bit of work that if we would actually do this, it does take some time to complete the analysis and go through that process. So by any means, in fact, in some cases, some of the department heads thought that even this was a little bit aggressive in terms of our timeline on some of those aspects. And again, when you look at it, we're looking at multiple phases or multiple aspects of what we're looking at in terms of reviewing our operations. So it's not as simple as what some might seem on the surface. So again, if this is acceptable, I did present this to admin. They thought it was a good approach. And again, I just wanted to give an update to the county board. But if this is acceptable in terms of a plan moving forward, I don't foresee any issues of why we can't accomplish this, following this timeline. And again, we'll provide updates both to the admin committee, and I guess when certain things of interest need to be reported to the full county board, we can do so as part of the report.
I guess I would add, at admin, the question was on the financial side or budgetary side. If something was discovered or we determined that we needed to do something budget-wise to add to this going forward, as it's discovered by either outside groups or internal functions, as we research this, we would put it in the budgetary process. So to be approved, it wouldn't hopefully come back as extraordinary budget request. That if we plan correctly, we should be able to have it in the budget.
Yep.
If that expense type of thing pops up.
Correct. For under both of those things, so if there's, for under the external, let's say there's a whole bunch of groups of community leaders all say we're gonna put X dollars in the pot to have this community type initiative, we could have that discussion and put it in the budget. Likewise, if there's anything internal we need to do, that we'll make it part of the budget process for our 2022 budget. And we'll include that and we'll identify that.
Vinny?
Thank you. I want to say thank you for your commitment on this project with the budgeted dollars in the future as a potential and as the approach with the internal and external program that you have for this. And I guess just my own interest as a county board member is if we can get progress reports as you see fit. It says in there as necessary, but I'm not sure. Like, I guess for me, I would like to see it would be necessary for me to see it maybe as the phases change for the internal work. And then the external work, as community members are contacting me still in support of this, just whatever information once it's available as to what organizations are a part of that external work and how someone else can become engaged with it, even if they're not in that working group, but they have an interest. If we can keep providing that kind of a report, it would be very helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Anybody else? Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious if you're able to talk about who you may have talked to outside of I'm just kind of curious what groups we might be talking about, like United Way or other groups, and if it's still undetermined yet, that's fine. I was just curious if we're that far to know who we're talking to on the outside.
No, the initial meeting was with the Community Foundation, the United Way, Destination Door County. Joe was included as well, and I'm missing someone, I know that offhand. Oh yeah, and the hospital was also included in that, Brian from that. So what we did is we just had this general discussion on it, and again, we retooled the name. Actually, I asked for their input, and we have a whole list of other, I guess, areas that they'd like to at least have initial discussions and putting together the program. Everything from Leaders of Faith to the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, some of the school districts, that type of thing. So we're going to try to get, again, an initial summit per se to kind of, I guess, flush out and talk about it and see how we're going to move that platform forward.
Okay. So just to clarify, so the sort of the seeking external voices is still continuing?
Correct.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Did you want to say on your monthly report, the operational CIP?
No, I covered that.
Yeah, okay. Good. Pending business and updates, resolutions. Resolution 2021-40, authorization to proceed development of residential options for sexually violent persons per 980.08 Wisconsin statutes. Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-40, the authorization to proceed the development of residential options for sexually violent persons.
We have a motion and a second. Any explanation, Grant?
No, this is following our usual process, a culmination of the reviews that include the adoption of the previous two resolutions. We're at the point where we're moving forward with the project and just need the final blessing of the county board to see it through to completion.
I can't see this. Oh, Bob? Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The map provided shows 4 housing units. Are we moving ahead with all 4 right away, or is it just 2?
We're just moving forward with 2, but we have the design set up for 4.
Right. And then I'm wondering, just given our efforts with green tier and sustainability, I'm wondering if anybody can comment to, I understand these are modular homes. Were we able to, be successful at all with getting, say, super insulated homes or high performance? Are these like, is sustainability being taken into account, or to what degree could we speak to that issue with these homes? And then my final question is, I can't help but feel a little bit sympathetic for someone who's trying to transition to a better life. And I understand the location, and it works for us. It's a good location, I think. I'm just hoping we can plant some trees. So is there any landscaping involved around or included in these? I just think that would be helpful for the peace of mind for the people who are, again, trying to make a better life for themselves, if they had a yard that had some trees and shade and a little bit of screening from the Justice Center. Any thought or efforts with landscaping? Thanks.
Wayne, you want to come up to the podium? I do know in the landscaping that we might consider some minor items, but again, also part of it is to make sure that we have the cameras available. So I guess we would not want to have significant blockage, because that's one of the reasons why we picked that location, because of the security that we have at the Justice Center.
I'm not thinking about a cedar hedge. I just, some nice sugar maple trees that will grow up tall, and it's something you can obviously look past, but something that casts shade in the yard and just makes it a nice place to be.
Yep.
Thanks.
So, since we're on that part, we'll answer that part first. We still have to go through the city's aesthetic review and design process. So some of that landscaping does come up in that process. So if there's a specific thought for trees, it would probably go on the north side towards the highway, so that we do have the sight lines for the cameras out of the Justice Center. And other landscaping would be low bush type of things. Keep in mind that these people can't leave their homes, although they can look out the window and see trees and birds, right? And I think that's where you're going with this. They can't go outside and sit in the yard without supervision, right? They can't walk through the door. That's just the way it is. As far as so HVAC systems, yes, high efficiency HVAC systems are going in with natural gas. And then we did opt for the next level up in insulation, and that's roof, floor, walls, and things like that. There aren't a lot of options for modular homes, but in a couple areas where it was smart to do that, we did that.
David?
Yes, just a question on the location here. I didn't research it, but trying to recall back to when the Justice Center was located there. That driveway going into the property, is that like an extension of one of the proposed streets for the city of Sturgeon Bay?
Yeah,
because
so
it laps over and above that hashed line.
yes, so your memory is spot on, right? There were a lot of extensions of streets in and around both the highway department and the Justice Center, and an extension of that street. The city has vacated all those options to have any plans for streets that it would extend. And I want to think one of them might have been called U Street.
Yes.
I was just looking at that yesterday. So all those designs and programs were there when you were looking at the Justice Center, and expansion of the city and how the city would have more housing developments in that area, but that was all vacated and they're not doing that.
Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We probably talked about this and I may have forgot, but as I remember, and if I'm wrong, well, let me know. We had 2 units because of the demand, or the possible demand for that, and we have 4 here, okay? These 4 are based on the potential demand from Door County residents that are currently housed, correct? This is not, just so everybody understands, this is not a case where, because every county has to do this. This is not a case where we're gonna build more than what we need and try to make money off of bringing sexual offenders into Door County.
That is correct. That is not our intent.
All right.
And actually, Ken, statutorily, the people that are being released from this program have to be housed within their county of residence. Their county of residence is determined by the state. So,
I thought there was something though that they could pay to locate them somewhere else if there was.
as of right now, that's not possible under the statute. There has been some discussion of legislation because other areas of the state have developed this sort of housing or in the private sector, but
Okay.
that was the reason for the change in law that led us to where we are here, is they had that door open, and what happened, there was an awful lot of not in my backyard, and the counties were seeking to place their sexually violent persons being transitioned back to the community in counties other than their county of residence, so.
Okay, thank you.
Laura?
Hi. Wayne, the flow of traffic coming in and out, and I apologize, I don't have my glasses today, and can't even zoom in on this, but from off of Duluth Avenue, thank you, no. From off of Duluth Avenue, when they come in that first left, is that the flow of traffic, or is it going past the project area?
You can go either way.
You can go either way?
Exiting, it is one way, so if you're so if you're coming into the Justice Center, you're supposed to go through the parking lot to exit. So for instance, if you came from the back of the building, you go through the parking lot instead of directly in front of that new drive.
Okay, and I just, as past conversation on this, is as possible victims of people been part of some type of sexual violence or some type of victimization, something that was mentioned about not having to drive right in front of people that are being housed there, or some sort of screen. That was mentioned as for shrubs or type of, I'd rather see that be considered than something aesthetic for them. I'd rather consider who is needing to come to the Justice Center and how we consider their situation. So if that's a proposal going forward where that signage does say that they don't have to drive right in front of that type of housing and they can exit to and from using that first left entrance, then that's what I would encourage as a possibility moving forward. I'd hope other people echo the same thing.
Thank you. Dave Enigal, and before you speak, I'll take a moment to say anybody who's getting emails that's spoofing us to tell us that Dave is in a meeting and needs some help, he's here in person, so we're in the same meeting that he's in. Dave?
Thank you. I didn't realize there was one coming from me as well. Go to page 15, please. The dash line going left to right through the third manufactured home. What is that?
That's just a project area that the civil put on there. That's not a boundary line as far as our different 40s. It's just a project area line.
Looking at the GIS map, though, it is a division between the two 40s.
Yeah, but it's actually further towards highway. Is actually where it's at. Because it shows going right down the road, but we own and it'll be north on this one, I believe. Yeah, it'll be straight north. It's actually north.
Well, I'm looking at the GIS map right now, and it matches the picture that you have there.
I couldn't tell you. That's how they surveyed it, and he identified that as the project area.
Okay,
all you can do is pass on what I've been told.
Because each side of that line has a different parcel ID number. Oh, I didn't notice that basket at facilities and parks. Because historically, you're not allowed to cross property lines, so.
Actually, I think, Dave, I can clear things up. We're gonna end up ultimately doing a certified survey map and creating a lot where these manufactured homes are gonna be placed.
That answers it, thank you.
Susan?
Yeah, the supervisor whose district not completely wraps around this, but certainly the side across from the Justice Center and then on the bottom, I got a lot of calls about this. And while none of them are delighted that we have to do this, they all understood that this was probably the very best location to put it. And they all appreciated In some cases, we talked a long time, but they did appreciate the value of having it where it is on the site, having the ability for the Justice Center to supervise it, to watch it, and all of the security involved. So this was a compromise. This, we truly tried to come up with the most secure location we could that would not be a problem for others.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else? Okay, we will go to our voter tablet.
Oops, 1 second.
That is passed on a vote of 20 yes, 0 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2021-41, HGA Master Planning Services for Library, Museums, and Archival Storage. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-41, HGA Master Planning Services, Library, Museum, and Archival Storage. And I'm sure we all read it, but line 22 through 25 is explaining that we want to move on with this and we want to proceed at the cost not to exceed $48,000.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 24, it mentions the travel and meals. It just seemed to me $2,500 for 2 people to travel here twice. Where are they coming from? $2,500 sounded really exorbitant.
The consultant's actually out of Milwaukee, and that's not a set fee. That'll be based off cost of when they're here. And we're trying to do as much as we can virtually to save costs. So hopefully we'll not hit that threshold.
So that's just an earmark, or so to speak, an earmark number that they have they can spend that much?
Correct.
It's not a guaranteed part of their contract?
Correct.
Well, that's helpful information. Thank you.
David Enigo?
Historically, our resolutions state where the monies are coming from. When this was presented to Facilities and Parks, it did not have the 48,000 in the resolution. It was down in the fiscal impact. What account are we taking this out of?
It is a budgeted expense. It comes out of the finance general admin budget under special projects.
And don't we normally say that inside the resolution as well? Am I missing that verbally? I know it's down there. We seem to be getting a little slow on keeping all of our resolutions the same pattern. Thank you.
Anybody else? We will go to our voter tablet.
Todd, your thing's not working?
There we go. That is passed on a vote of 18 yea, 2 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2021-42, approval of the grant for the monitoring and control of reed canary grasses and Phragmites on Plum Island. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021-42.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Alexis?
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't. Do we own Plum Island? Who owns Plum Island? How does that work? Oh, okay. Thank you.
David Engelbert?
Yes, I guess probably a question to the LCC. this is an effort to control the Phragmites, but I think as we travel around the county and down the Green Bay or wherever we go, Phragmites is spreading at such a fast rate all over. Is this like this effort? Is it really accomplishing something? I don't mean that we shouldn't do something, but just the problem is so much broader. It doesn't seem that we're handling anything anywhere. You head to Green Bay following 57, it's in the ditches all over, it's in the adjacent fields. I know it was a concern to land conservation 20 years ago when it was first at the mouth of the Fox. And the DNR seemed to look the other way, I think, and now it's all over.
We're going to ask Aaron to respond.
Okay.
Aaron, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good morning. Absolutely, Phragmites is a concern for us, and we've invested a lot of time and energy in controlling non-native Phragmites in Door County. And so related to Plum Island, because it's an island, it's really critical to control Phragmites there and keep the unique ecology of Plum Island intact. And so this is a great opportunity for us to do that. For the rest of the county, Phragmites is one of our 4 priority species that we focus on in soil and water. And we're very fortunate right now to have a number of grants that allow us to control frag. And so I agree that in Northeast Wisconsin, it truly is a big problem. We're doing our level best and everything we can within the funding that we have available to us to control Phragmites within the county of in the area, and partnering with a wide variety of groups to get that job done.
Thank you, Aaron. Bob?
Aaron spoke quite eloquently about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? David, Enigo?
This is actually a question for Aaron. I work in the Brown County area, and it is a massive problem there. Some of the municipalities are starting to deal with it. Does she know what efforts at all Brown County or the other municipalities, or even Ucanto, is beginning, if not been doing?
I'm somewhat familiar. You will have noticed that Kewaunee County had taken some efforts over the past couple of years. They had a large grant from EPA, GLRI, I believe it was, through the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. And that, I think, our immediate neighbor to the south is great that they're working on control, because we know that highway corridors can be one of those primary means of spread for invasive species, frag included. Related to Brown County, I agree, they have just such a huge population to focus on. I'm less familiar with the efforts that they're taking, other than knowing on the west shores of the Bay of Green Bay, that has been a focus area for some time for partners, including DNR and others, I guess. You're right, it's a big problem. It's one we shouldn't ignore because it only continues to grow.
And my last comment on that is, I am glad we in Door County are doing what we're doing, because it grows fast. I've got places that have been just a little under construction, and all of a sudden that mat is just allowed to go. And I'm glad we are doing something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else? Okay, we will go to the voting tablet. Has passed on a vote of 20 yea, 0 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2021-43, Town of Brussels Map Amendment. Mr. Enigo.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-43, Town of Brussels Map Amendment.
A motion and a second. Any questions?
And Mariah is here in case somebody has any questions. Basically, for those that don't remember, Brussels back in around 2002 went into their own zoning, basically mirrored Door County's zoning at that time. And anything that they do in this level needs to come before the board, for the county board, for approval as well.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, especially seeing where the site is, it's, it's farm field right now. And to go from general agriculture to mixed commercial, I guess I was wondering why it isn't going to just like residential or, that countryside residential or something. Why does it go to mixed commercial or, it seems like there's an intermediate step, and I'm just curious what the rationale is for going all the way to mixed commercial when it's kind of out in the middle of farm country. Thanks.
Mariah, good morning.
Morning. As Dave said, this is just a process that's laid out in the statutes where if a town that has town zoning is in a county that has county comprehensive zoning, any changes to their ordinance and the actual original adoption of their ordinance need to be approved by the county. So it's not anything where we hold a hearing. We just take the information that's provided to us from the town, and then the Resource Planning Committee looks at it and discusses it and makes a recommendation to county board. The 2 lots in question are already there. They were already subdivided in their existing formation quite a few years ago. And I guess all we know is that there's apparently a buyer for the property that would need the commercial designation under the town zoning ordinance. There was quite a bit of discussion about this at RPC because it doesn't necessarily match the county or the town plan future land use maps, but the town is in support of it, and the county figured that the lots are already there and it is across from like the South Highway Department, so it's not going to be that out of place.
Dave, Enigo?
And just to reiterate to that, those of you that don't remember, there's actually a machine shop there at the moment. When these lots were created, that machine shop went up. And certainly looks, acts, and feels like that was their intent, and you just, in my view, just simply didn't do their due diligence at that time, and now they're going through and correcting certain issues of it.
Okay. Alexis?
Just a follow-up question. You said the county on these sorts of things don't hold a hearing. Did the town hold a hearing on this, or what's that local process?
Yes, from the paperwork they gave us, it does look like they held a hearing.
It does look like they held a hearing.
Well, they told us they did, so we're trusting that they did, yes.
Okay. Okay. It's very odd. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll go to our voting tablet. Here we go. That's passed with a vote of 20 yea, 0 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2021-44, supporting reauthorization of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like the board to consider Resolution 2021-44 and support the authorization of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program for another 10 years.
Laura, did you want to amend? Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions? Any other explanation? Grant, anything to explain?
No, if anybody has any questions, I can attempt to answer them, but basically this resolution supports re-up of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program for a period of 10 years. And anybody that's been on the board over the past 10 years know we make fairly robust use of the program. So,
Roy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of our subjects that we had on legislative days, and out of the 9 representatives that we contacted on that 2-day period, we only had one senator from southern Wisconsin, southeastern Wisconsin, that was sort of lukewarm on it, but everyone else sure supported this type of resolution. So thank you for our legislative bodies recognizing that.
Okay, thank you, Roy. Anyone else? We will go to our voter tablet. That is passed on a 20 yea, 0 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. Resolution 2021-45, the HIPAA policies and procedures. Susan,
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt Resolution 2021-45, the HIPAA policies and procedures.
thank you. Any questions? Grant, any explanation?
Again, briefly, this is the culmination of a 3 to 4 year effort where we've gone through and put together HIPAA policies and procedures, essentially updated the rather scant policies that we had. And as the individual policies and procedures were created, they were approved by the administrative committee and put into effect by the administrative committee, with the understanding when we reached the end of the process that we would create a standalone HIPAA policies and procedure, and that's what we intend to do by adoption, hopefully, of resolution number 2021-45.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? That will go to our voting tablet. That's passed a majority of 20 yeas, 0 nay, and 1 absent. Thank you. There are no ordinance to consider. No special reports. New business. Any oral committee reports? Vinnie?
I would just say with the Sustainability Committee, Ken has put together a really nice draft of the annual report that's required for Green Tier, so that would be kind of forthcoming, and just wanted to share that that's to be heard soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, if you don't mind, I have one.
Sure,
I just have just one additional item. It was discussed at finance, but I did provide on your desk some fun reading. So if you read I guess my weekly communication, we did receive our first half of our funds from the next, I always get them mixed up. This is the American Rescue Plan Act. So we have 26 million approximately came into our account, and we have that segregated, and we're working with finance. We have that money set aside. But again, I thought this was a nice summary. There's a number of counties association when NACO did one. I thought this one was a little bit more detailed. Again, it goes through on just really quick. There's some key dates in terms of how the funds are being allocated and used. But then it actually has some nice examples of how those funds can be used in terms of a description. Then also tells you how you have to track and report the use of those funds. And then at the very end, they also give you an appendix of some examples of how those funds can be used. Our intention right now is to have those discussions at finance in terms of some options of how those funds could be used. I guess if you have certain ideas that you'd like to have the finance committee to review or consider, I'd ask you that you should reach out to one of the committee members or myself, because we're going to start to have those conversations. I think the one thing that we did discuss at finance is that there's no need to spend this as fast as we can. There's going to be a lot of other opportunities or more detail coming out in terms of options that we can pursue. But again, I guess we're going to have that discussion at our finance committee, and we'll look at that through the budgeting process. But again, obviously, we're looking for any type of input that the county board may have as a relation to this. But again, just some light reading for you to take at your consideration. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Oh, Todd?
Yeah, just for the benefit of those maybe not on the finance committee meeting and not having read that document yet, generally speaking, what are maybe the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things that this can be used for? And I would hope that, from a fiscal responsibility perspective, that it is more toward, instead of niceties, things that we really need, and maybe areas that we're behind in spending on. We've all talked about, again, I don't know if roads and those types of things are available, but could you just briefly comment on?
Sure, I can give you the broad categories. It's actually something I can cover really quick. So the main categories is obviously, first one is recovery, as far as some past expenses, but also our continuing addressing the COVID, and that's especially for public health and emergency services. The other areas in terms of where we can use those funds would be for negative economic impacts. And again, that's very broad. It's negative economic impacts both for the county in terms of if we had lost areas of revenue. For example, if Human Services, for example, can say that we had a decline in projected revenue of our operations because of COVID, we could actually recover our revenue to help cover those expenses. But it also opens everything up in terms of we could become a granting agency, which I don't want to do, but you could actually provide assistance to businesses or housing, whole different other examples. You can set up a loan program, type of thing. So that's also available in terms of an option. They also have areas in terms of for payroll coverage for public safety and health moving forward. Also for premium pay, which we did a little bit in the sheriff, and I wouldn't consider it really premium, but it's more towards how we adjusted their schedules. Again, there's a whole other section for, I guess, revenue loss, but there is an area called for infrastructure for sewer and water. They did not include roads, but it was for sewer and water. And there's also an area that's for broadband infrastructure. And we're trying to get, I guess, some further guidance on the broadband, but that also is another good opportunity for us in terms of that. There are areas where, even within those rules, they expanded it. So there are certain things we could do, such as some unique housing projects, which I know for the county is a priority. Obviously, broadband is a priority for us, and also our groundwater has always been a priority. In each one of those areas, there's probably some opportunities that we could look at in the future, but those are some of the examples of where that funding can go.
Thank you. Okay. Vinny?
Thank you. You answered the question that I had mostly, but I was curious to know if we have a source for kind of knowing what the negative economic impacts are in that category where they're is there a data source or research that's been done in the county, maybe not necessarily by the county, that kind of gives an indicator of what some of the negative economic impacts may have been on families or community members in different industries that may have been impacted by COVID. I haven't seen any information on that, but I'm just not aware of it. Thank you.
I know DC EDC did an anecdotal survey that had a review of some of the impacts. And I guess I can try to work with Steve Jenkins and I can get that included in our packet maybe for next month. So.
Okay, thank you.
David Engelbert?
Yes, I think as Ken reported at Finance too, it's important to remember that these funds aren't to be used to offset our property taxes, you know, that budgetary process. There's extra projects that may fit into categories that we can do that we'd wish to do, but it's not going to just reduce taxes.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
Just to go off of the DC EDC report from Steve Jenkins, there is a report out, I do believe larger than just the county, but it focuses on the county for Dora County, and there it is projected that there's possibly several hundred small businesses that will be lost due to COVID impacts. So that report is out there. I think it was shared to us at the DC EDC meeting. So Pavitt could reach out to Steve and get that report, or that might have been part of a revolving loan fund program. So that's been something we've been meeting every 2 weeks on to help get EDA money out for revolving loans for small businesses. Maybe that would be a good time. I don't know if Steve Jenkins actually did come to the county board, because when he came on board, COVID was happening.
Yeah,
maybe this would be a good time to do a special report from him and actually formally put him on the podium and grill him about things that have been going on, because they seem to have some more steady staff there and more stability, and things are going well. And then he can speak to more formally on what revolving loans we're doing and having in place to help out small businesses.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
I would suggest also that United Way, as one of the groups that worked with the emergency funds during COVID, would have data that they do on a regular basis with regard to impacts on families and so on.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just finish up with the one thing I said jokingly at Finance is that I consider us fiscally responsible, is probably the better term. So we have always been very fiscally responsible. But the one thing that'll be a little bit new for us is that the true intent of the money is to use it. So it'll be something not unnatural to us, but the whole idea of the money is to try to get it used and to try to generate or help support our economy in Door County. So I think that's where we need to be thinking about how we're going to try to leverage these funds and make the best use of them, but also be fiscally responsible in how we apply them. So we'll be working through the process, but again, if you have ideas, please let a finance committee member know or myself, and we'll start to work through that process and move that forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Review committee minutes. Review vouchers, claims, and bills. Announcements. The next regular county board meeting is June 22nd at 9 a.m.
if you could complete your time cards yet today or at the latest tomorrow, I can get them into finance for pay next Friday. If I don't get them in by Friday morning, you will not get paid for another 3 weeks. So that's when I plan. I'll cut them off Thursday. So if you can get your month done, you will go in. If I'm going to cut them off no matter what's there. And then if you have anything from this month, just add them to next month, please.
Thank you. The meeting per diem code is 525. And the motion to adjourn would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further business to be transacted, I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone.
Hour and a half.
Very nice to see everybody. It's great. All in
What are you
one
guys going
spot.
to do with the rest of your day?
Go